You're listening to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. This is episode 67, and today's topic is, are we living in a computer simulation? Hey everyone, Adam Muselli here. Welcome to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. This podcast is released every Friday, and show notes are found at the website themindtechinstitute.com. It's all one word. Come back often and feel free to add this podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. All links are in the show notes and website. And now, let's get started. This episode requires an open mind to be able to understand the concept of the simulated universe or reality. And if you want to learn or if you want to know more about how to be open-minded, you can simply go back to episode 60, or if you are already an open-minded person, or maybe you even already listened to episode 60, you can certainly enjoy listening to this very strange episode right after we get the intro out of the way. If you're interested in learning and becoming a fully qualified hypnotherapist, neuro-linguistic programming NLP practitioner or master practitioner, a life coach or a counselor, now you can study all that totally online. All you have to do is visit mti.edu.au or themindtechinstitute.com, and you'll find all these courses along with many other courses once you click on the online courses tab. All our diplomas and advanced diplomas are accredited and recognized worldwide. And for more information, all can be found online, themindtechinstitute.com. Now, if you think we have covered some strange subjects in the last 66 episodes, well, don't be so flattered, because this episode is so strange too, and I assure you it will not be the last. You see, I've been searching the simulated reality probably for the last, I would say, 10 years. And I really don't know where to start. Not because it's so bizarre, but because it definitely needs at least 5 episodes to cover everything. However, I'm gonna lay the basics or the foundations here. And I'm gonna try to do it within 20 minutes. As you know, I try to keep all our episodes at 20 minutes or less. And during this episode, if we pass 20 minutes and we still have things to cover, then I will do a part 2 or continuation to this episode next week. Okay, now Elon Musk, I'm sure you already know who he is, Tesla cars and SpaceX. He said that there is only a 1 in billions chance that we're not living in a computer simulation. That means our lives are almost certainly being conducted within an artificial world powered by an AI or artificial intelligence and highly powered computers like the Matrix movie. And that also means everyone and everything is an AI or artificial intelligence being living in a virtual simulated world. So reality and everything we see and everything we know is a computer program. And I know that sounds crazy. It sounds like a sci-fi movie such as The Truman Show, if you've seen it. The main character played by Jim Carrey, he finds out that everybody in his life is an actor, and his entire world is artificial. And he finds out that even the sky was simply painted onto a wall. And to be honest, when I watched that movie, I had this strange feeling. I felt somewhat sad and maybe scared. I thought, what if this is true and we're all being deceived? It's not a pleasant feeling. It's sad, but I also found it fascinating at the same time. So that movie drove me to learn more, and I started watching more movies like The 13th Floor, The Matrix, Vanilla Sky, Dark City. This movie, Dark City, was wicked, by the way. They're all good movies, and they make you think and make you question everything. But they are not just movies. These movies are written based on books and scientific theories, as we will learn in this episode. In 1970, a British mathematician named John Conway, he created a project known as the Game of Life. Even though it's a game, it isn't one that you necessarily play. The Game of Life is a zero-player game, which doesn't make much sense when you hear it. But the way it works is you put in a set of initial conditions and then observe. That's it. Once you put in the initial conditions, the game pretty much runs itself. Other than the small set of rules of the simulation follows, it runs on almost nothing. Some patterns only run for a few generations before they die out, while others seemingly go on forever. This game makes you think. If a simulation as small as this game with very little variables can result in something huge, and don't forget was created in 1970, what if we scale this up to, say, the size of the universe? A simulation that's more than just dots on a screen, but a simulation with galaxies, planets, and life. And more importantly, if that's possible, how do we know that we aren't living in one of those simulations right now? You see, this simulation theory isn't something new. As a matter of fact, it's ancient, and it's older than the Bible. Actually, the Greek philosopher Plato came up with this thought experiment. He imagined, what if there were people who were taken as babies into a cave and chained to a chair to look at a wall, and behind them was a fire, and objects would move in front of the fire and cast shadows onto the wall. Just think of it as a projector these days. Now, the prisoners, not knowing anything else in their whole life, would believe that the shadows were the real thing. They would believe that the simulation was the reality. Now, I know this sounds like a complete nonsense, same as the universe being a simulation, but when you actually take a look into it, it seems to become more and more plausible. I mean, now if I ask you, how do you observe things? You will tell me, well, you see them, or you smell them, or you observe them with any of your senses. And that's true. And it's called sensory acuity as we teach in NLP. But that's your subjective reality, which is a reality based on the subject, which is you. You are alone in your own head. Everything that you observe or interact with enters a journey with neurons firing in your brain in a certain way and pass through many filters to create your view of the world. Now, with this being said, can you prove that there is an objective reality, which is a reality that exists independently of your knowledge of it? Sort of a central or a supreme reality that incorporates all of your subjective realities. It exists without our observation of it. That sounds kind of confusing, though. You cannot know that an objective reality exists without someone or something to observe it. For example, let's say if we're both eating a lemon, One says it's bitter, and the other one says it's sweet. And maybe we both correct. That is where our subjective realities come into play. For this, it seems that two different minds, two different people can observe a single object in multiple ways. In an objective reality, a lemon would just be either bitter or sweet, regardless of either one of our observation. In an objective reality, in order to prove something exists, you would have to observe it without observing, which is, of course, an obvious contradiction. This actually begs the question, can you prove that anything outside of your own mind is actually real? Do you remember what this is called? It's called solipsism, and we spoke about it in episode 3. However, if you look outside now, wherever you are, if you look outside now, you might see cars, trees, grass, or buildings, or whatever objects. But you don't need to look out there physically to know that those things do exist. And this is known as objective preeminence, which is the knowledge that objects exist even when you aren't perceiving them in any way. However, we aren't born with this skill. It's something that is developed over time. Think about the peekaboo game, which is you play with babies. I'm sure maybe you've played it or you've seen it before. When you cover your face, babies less than a year old will believe that you disappeared. But when you take your hands away, you're back and your face is visible to the baby again. That's back into the baby's reality. The knowledge that things exist even when you cannot observe them isn't learned until about 2 years old. But is that actually true? Well, this goes back to your subjective reality. Sure, after a while you might learn that some things seems to exist when you aren't observing them. But how can you be certain at the end of the day? It's just your subjective reality. It's due to your consciousness that you can even observe anything. Take this for example. When you've looked at your computer or phone or TV or whatever device you're listening to this podcast on, you know that all of those things are actually composed of atoms, even my voice. But you can't really see them, not until we take a device such as a microscope to observe them. Then we can actually see these atoms. That makes up everything we can't see until they are observed closely. So, if this is true, this can make the simulating universe even easier to understand. So, what is simulation? It's simply an artificial model created to imitate a real-world process, and we're gonna come back to this word imitate later. It turns out that we humans, we make a lot of different types of simulations ourselves for many different reasons. For example, professionals such as pilots and surgeons, they have very dangerous jobs. I mean, any mistake with the operating knife can cost somebody their life. Or imagine a pilot makes a mistake in the sky. We'll be all dead. So they train their skills in simulations like flight simulators, so they will not have to practice on real people. Also, crisis simulations allow us to predict when natural disasters will strike and how they will affect our infrastructure. Politicians use public opinion simulators to predict how they will perform in an election. And of course, companies use similar simulators before they launch new products or services. But this isn't the most common type of simulation. The most common type of simulation is entertainment, especially video games. You see, we build simulations just so we can do things that are forbidden. We can do things that are also illegal and dangerous just so we can have a good time. And in all of those simulations, the closer that they imitate real life, the better they are at performing what they do. For example, the Sims game, I'm not sure if you have played it. The Sims game actually allows you to build homes, design homes the way you want. You can make, or better say, build people in any way you want them to look. You can make them look in a certain way and dress them as you want. And yes, they can have babies, and also they can have pets too. And what about Grand Theft Auto? This game is crazy. I mean, you could steal cars, you can buy and shoot all sorts of guns, you can punch random people on the street, and do many other illegal things. You can kill and die as many times as you want. And the thing about these games, they are slowly evolving. I mean, GTA, Grand Theft Auto, it started out as a top-down shooter. The graphics, I remember, were terrible. And now the graphics are almost lifelike. The movements are becoming more realistic. The characters are starting to talk to you as it is real life. And all these games are constantly evolving and getting updated frequently. You see, in 1965, a scientist named Gordon Moore, he predicted that computing power will double every 2 years. So every 2 years, we have twice as much computing power as we did the previous 2 years. And for the last 50 years, his predictions has turned out to be true. Computing power is doubling roughly every 2 years, and as computing power doubles, so does our ability to make better graphics and better artificial intelligent movement algorithms. Just imagine what Grand Theft Auto GTA would look like in 50 years. I don't know. Maybe we'll be able to go into the game and talk with artificial intelligence characters about whatever. But here's another thing. What happens when you turn off the game? Do the characters just disappear? Do they go into a different reality, just as the end of the world and other eschatological beliefs, as some people believe, such as the Judgment Day? But as our computing power improves, we'll be able to run simulations continuously. We'll never have to turn off the game, and the artificial intelligent beings that we design in the game can continue to do whatever they are programmed to do without ever knowing that it's a simulation. Now, I think we already passed 20 minutes, and there is still a lot to talk about. So we're going to have to continue this next week. I'm really sorry. I don't usually do these cliffhanging episodes, but this topic is really, really vast, and we barely scratched the tip of it. So we'll continue next week. And once again, if you would like to study and become a fully qualified hypnotherapist, neurolinguistic programming NLP practitioner and master practitioner, a life coach or a counselor, now you can study all that online. All you need to do is visit mti.edu.au or themindtechinstitute.com, and you will find all these courses along with many other courses. Once you click on the online courses tab, all our diplomas and advanced diplomas are accredited and recognized worldwide. And for more information, all can be found online, themindtechinstitute.com. That's it for today, and we'll continue next week. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, as usual, you can email me. The email is on our website, themindtechinstitute.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, especially if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube. The Dynamic Thinking Project podcast is released every Friday. Until next time, take care and enjoy your weekend. This is Adam Muselli, signing out.